Hello teaching team, I hope we're all doing really well. I finally arrived here on Waka Waka land here at Cherbourg. I'm so excited to be here to develop these geography lessons for our Year 5 students. Now before we begin going in depth about the lessons, I just want to start with acknowledgement of the Waka Waka people. I do want to thank them for enabling me to be here today and listen to their stories. These stories have helped me to create these lessons and link them to the cross-curriculum priority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and histories. I've just sat down at the front of Cherbourg Museum just because I want to go through first the content descriptor and also lesson 1. So the content descriptor. The content descriptor which I have chosen for all 3 lessons is the influence of First Nations Australians and other people in different countries and their influence on the characteristics of a place. So lesson 1. It is the engage phase. We want the students to become engaged so they're so excited to come visit Cherbourg. So in lesson 1 we'll start with the inquiry question. What makes Cherbourg so unique? Students will have so many questions because they've never visited that area before. This will utilise critical thinking skills within the students because they'll be using questioning. They'll have so many questions. At the end of the lesson, students will utilise a resource. These question cards will be utilised in the excursion to come. The students will ask the community these questions, which is the whole point. We're trying to investigate through that question, what makes Cherbourg so unique? Now, before the students develop these question cards, they will perform an interactive read aloud with their teacher in group work. They will form a yarning circle, and the book is The Ration Shed by Cherbourg State School. Through this interactive read aloud, it introduces students to utilise their literacy skills. The teacher and students will form a yarning circle when they're reading the book, and the teacher will stop at various pages. The teacher and students will research and investigate the certain characteristics through imagery and text. This book is a great opportunity to get the students ready for the next lesson. And through this interactive read aloud, this will then go on to the next step of the question cards, which they will then develop individually. It is important to note that we need the students to develop at least 3 questions. These question cards are a great resource. These question cards show that the students are ready to learn. Students will then go on their excursion and they will put on their investigator hat, and their job is to figure out the answers to their questions. So the last thing we as teachers and a teaching team need to ensure we do is we need to provide students a task sheet. I'll insert a photo now. I do encourage students to bring it with them on their excursion to Cherbourg like I have today, because it will help them when asking questions and investigating with their cameras. Now, let's move on to lesson 2. So to start the morning off, we'll get the students to line up in front of the classroom. Now we're going to try and avoid using our mobile phones. So we're going to hand out cameras. If you do have this resource, we're going to hand out cameras like the one I brought with me today to the students. This will just avoid any distractions from the excursion at hand. So when the students get there and they will arrive via bus, it takes about 40 minutes to get to Cherbourg. When the students get there, they're going to go to the Cherbourg Museum at the Ration Shed, and they're going to sit and listen to community tell their stories. This is a great opportunity for the students to use their question cards and ask the questions that they've been wanting to ask. However, please note, there is more opportunities later on, so please don't stress if any student has missed out on their question. As stated previously, students will be using the ICT of the camera. However, it's important that we make sure that the students bring their HASS books with them on this excursion. The HASS books are going to be a great opportunity for students that might have a strength in drawing and sketching to use these skills to develop their newfound knowledge. Now, not only do we want the students to do sketches during their experience of characteristics of place, we also want the students to use their literacy skills. So, for students that are going on this excursion, they can use these literacy skills without causing a distraction to their learning. All that we ask of students in this lesson is to write down key characteristics that they've observed. This will improve students' spelling. Not only this, but in lesson 3, this will be used as data that they've collected and be used to help when they're designing their project. Now, I'm going to insert some photos that I've taken with my ICT. and these images do include characteristics of place. Now, lastly, for lesson 2, it's important to note that the students will be using not only one, but 2 high-order thinking skills. This includes the transfer of knowledge. Transfer of knowledge is not going to be successful if the students aren't open to listening to the community and their stories, histories, and cultures. Transfer of knowledge also includes the use of ICTs, sketching, and literacy. Second high-order thinking skill is the use of critical questioning. Students will be using their questioning cards and also newfound knowledges and understandings to utilise questioning throughout the exploration of the dormitories and also the ration shed. Now, this is the explore phase, and now we're going to move on to the explain phase, which is lesson 3. Lesson 3, the explain phase. In this lesson, students are going to gather into groups of 4. This project can go over 3 lessons or 1 lesson, depending on how long you want to make it. It really doesn't matter. Now, the geography skill that students are going to be working on is presenting descriptions and explanations, drawing findings and viewpoints from sources gathered, and using relevant terms and conventions. Using relevant terms and conventions includes the characteristics of place. Not only this, but students will be working on their numeracy skills. This is something that students haven't worked on in lessons 1 and 2, and I'm really excited for them to be utilising it. Now, teaching team. There is one thing I ask of you when students are creating these models throughout the 3 lessons or 2 lessons or 1 lessons that you create this project for. Please ensure that students have the same size boxes for their models. By doing this, we are avoiding students from being upset and also feeling as though they are disadvantaged. Not only this, but another thing that I do ask is that students do not bring anything from home. Please utilise the resources around the school and in the classroom. To conclude the 3 activities that we've just discussed, I really think it's important that we as teachers provide a safe space for the students to talk about their newfound understandings and make conclusions. Therefore, I highly encourage that we as teachers utilise the yarning circle at the end of these 3 activities. By providing students the opportunity to form a yarning circle, we should discuss the content descriptor of the influence of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples on place. Thank you for listening, and I really look forward to seeing these embedded into your school.